All right, so hey guys, welcome to the MTFU Podcast number 2. Today we're going to talk about the next E in the 5 E's of learning and doing something successfully from the start. Last time we talked about expectation and education. Today we're going to talk about effort. I'm Rob Esposito, and this is my co-host Dave Cassidy. Say hi, Dave.
Hello, everyone.
Glad
to be here.
So effort. What does effort mean?
Well, effort is the energy you put into to do something, and it's critical, right? You can have all the expectations, all the education that you want, but you need to put in the work, the effort.
Okay. So when you hear the word effort, what's the first thing that kind of pops in your head?
Well, the first thing is to show up and start, do something.
Okay.
And you need to put effort in regardless of your mental state most of the times. There's certainly exceptions when major life events occur, but the key to effort in my mind is to actually do it. Even when you don't feel like doing something, you need to put in some level of effort.
Okay. So I just looked up effort. I wanted to actually put the definition out there. It's a vigorous or determined attempt. I think that's really important for people to understand that it's not just showing up. It's actually putting the work in a little bit too, right? I think some people kind of define it as, I put some effort into shoveling my driveway, yet it's all still icy. No, you didn't. That wasn't vigorous or a determined attempt, right?
Well, when you're trying to achieve a goal, though, right, the most important thing is to do your best. And doing your best on a particular day will change.
Right.
So that's what I mean by showing up and putting the effort in, even when you don't feel like it. But certainly there are days where you do feel like it, and on those days, you need to put in that extra effort.
So then effort is something that's determined by the day, by your feeling, by the variables in the equation for that day.
Well, it certainly changes over time.
Right.
And good effort is consistency over time.
Okay.
So, you're certainly going to have a general level of effort. You're going to have extra effort, and then you're going to have low effort. And over time, you want to have a consistency, and you want your middle effort to be good, if not great.
So in the definition of effort, what should someone, in your opinion, be striving towards? Just is there a limited, a minimum effective dose of effort that's necessary, you think?
Yes, I do. I think. And that's why I say there are certain times where you cannot put the effort in, right? If there's some sort of major life event, whatever you're trying to achieve, it may be difficult to put the effort in, whether it's death in the family, a birth of a child, change of jobs. It may be difficult to put in that minimal level of effort.
Okay.
And that's okay. That's okay. But over time, you want to put in a level of effort where you're doing your best. And on those days where maybe it is not your best, that's okay too. You keep going. Right? I think you sent me that quote or article about, or maybe I sent it to you, about the Navy SEAL that said the 40% rule. Most people quit at 40% of effort. And if you look at it, when you're ready to quit, say to yourself, I'm only at 40%. I have another 60% to go.
That's a good rule of thumb to kind of think about.
Yeah, well, I didn't come up with it, and I don't know the science behind it. I like the thought behind it, though.
Yeah, definitely.
And certainly in the gym, right? How many times do we say, I can't do anymore?
Oh, it happens all the time. Which is what they talked about in that article, actually. He said, the guy had him do pull-ups. He said, you're going to do 100. We're going to stay here until you do them. And the other guy thought he had no idea that he'd have no way of doing 100 pull-ups, and lo and behold, he did.
Right. And If that person wasn't there motivating, coaching, and directing, probably would have quit at 40% or less. They didn't realize they had the physical capacity to go to 100.
Right. So in my experience, people, their belief in themselves limits their efforts a lot. You know, their self-imposed limitations tend to be, you know, way lower than they ever think. What's something that you would give advice to maybe to somebody about how to break through those self-imposed limitations?
Well, I think just what you said, being mindful of them. So if you're at the gym and you're saying, I can't do this, you're correct. Take that out of the equation. Take it right out of the equation.
I think that was Confucius who said that. He who says he can and he who says he can't are both normally right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very smart man. I thought it was the Buddha that said that, but or Gandhi, but it could be Confucius.
I had to look that one up.
Yeah, I get them all confused.
It's all the same thing, just reworded anyways, right?
You know, the one thing, Rob, is you're familiar with the Pareto principle, right?
Absolutely.
80-20 rule.
Yeah.
So think about this, right? Whether it's the gym or life or anything, 80% of your results are probably coming from 20% of your effort.
So why don't you elaborate on that principle a little further?
So the 80-20 rule basically says that any 20% of your activities will lead to 80% of the results. And you got to find out what those 20% are of your activities that are giving you abundance. And then the 80% of your activities that are not yielding results that you would like, you need to look at those also. So that's a general rule of thumb. Italian scientist, or Pareto, they call it,
right.
Principle. In any event, if you think of that gym, 20% of your efforts are giving you 80% of your results. You really got to look at what your efforts are. What are you doing? What is working? What's not working?
So what's a good measure of effort then? Time put on it? You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people are misconstrued about the efforts they're putting in, and myself included. I'm not preaching, but I think sometimes I think I'm doing a lot, and I look at it from a different perspective, and it's not really a lot. You know?
Well, I think it's consistency over time.
Okay.
And consistency doesn't mean doing the same level of effort every day, although that's fine. But there are going to be highs and lows, and when you put that energy over time, that's what effort is. How much effort did you put in CrossFit?
Right. 15-minute WOD 7 days a week is going to be a lot more than, an hour WOD twice a week.
Yeah,
maybe not. I can do the math now.
I wasn't doing the math in my head, but let me say this: if you said if I said today, how much effort did you put in? You say I did a WOD for 15 minutes.
Right.
But that's not really true, because over time you've put in a lot more effort than that, and it's been consistent.
Mm-hmm. It's
been daily. It's been weekly. It's been monthly, and then yearly.
Right. Like I just did the open workout last night about 7:30. For those of you who don't know, CrossFit every year has their CrossFit Games open, where 300,000 people from across the world participate in the same workout and are judged and scored. And I haven't been doing a lot of the Metcons lately, but I have a good base and my technique is good, and that allowed me to get a pretty good score on that workout. I mean, it hurt pretty bad, but, it was because of the effort put forth over time. I think that made it a little more manageable than if I had just started and we're doing it for a year,
Absolutely. And you used a good word a moment ago, intensity. And I think people confuse intensity with effort.
I think you're right, yeah.
Right? It's good to be intense. It's good to put maximum effort in. But you cannot sustain that on a daily basis.
Right.
Over time. You need to find some level of effort that's productive. So there are times where you need intensity, maximum effort.
What's a good flag to know that this is the time for the intensity?
Please repeat that. I lost you.
What's a good flag to say, oh, this is the time I got to turn it up? When you're in the groove, when you're kind of flowing, you know?
It depends. It depends what you're doing, but if you have a good coach, you need someone to help that. Like I say, most people don't know what they're doing when it comes to new activities. So you need a coach, you need a mentor to tell you, right? For example, boxing. If I asked you at what point in training should you put maximum effort, intensity into your training, you wouldn't have the level of knowledge to answer that. And quite frankly, nor would I. I would look to my coach,
right,
to tell me, hey, it's week 2 of training. Turn it on. Don't turn it on. Stay the course. Because if I were left to my own device, I would start maximum activity on day 1, right? And then by day 7, I would be at a low level of activity because I exhausted myself.
Right. So I think that goes back to the principles of it, right? The foundations of whatever you're doing, that they need to be in place before you turn the volume up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think a lot of people, especially CrossFit, unfortunately, they miss out on that principle. That's something that I beat people up in the head with all the time, just because that's my philosophy on it, is building a good base, a solid base first, and then you can start turning it up, And I'll use the analogy of like
to the point that I started with in the beginning. During this process, there's going to be many days that you do not want to show up, and you need to put the effort in to make yourself show up. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's learning, a new sport, or the gym, or doing well at work. Those down days, you need to, lace your shoes up and try. And it's okay if you're not at maximum effort. To me, that's essential.
Okay,
that's
so
the number one thing with effort.
So effort, you got the number one most important thing in effort is just move forward doing something.
Absolutely. For me.
Right. I actually agree with that. Showing up.
If I waited
going through emotions.
Yeah, if I waited to that perfect time where I could put in a high level of effort, I might only capture a few hours here and there. But if I force myself on a Tuesday when it's raining and I'm tired to go train, that's good effort.
So how about for other realms of successfully starting something, whether it's a college course, a new job, what does that hold true? I mean, you have to show up, obviously, new job in college, but to do the extra work, to learn the new trade, to learn the material you're being taught, you got to start. And I think that holds true across the board. So I think that would be one of those universal points. I don't think anybody can argue that just getting the ball rolling, doing something, is not the first thing you need to do when it comes to effort.
I have meetings over the next 3 days focused on a single project. It's tedious, and I need to do this. I'm certain tomorrow that I'm not going to feel like going to these meetings, but I'm going to make sure when I wake up that I go and I try my best, and I'm really going to get my mind around that. I know it's going to be tedious. I know I'm going to hit that little lull, but I'm going to be there. Now it's work, so in many respects you have to be there, but I wouldn't be fired if I weren't. It just would make things more complicated.
Right.
So I have my mind set right now that I'm going to put the effort in over the next 3 days.
So that kind of goes over to a point I wanted to make at some point during our talk today about discipline and how important that is, right? You're obviously disciplined enough to know you have to do something you don't want to do in order to get what you want, which is the success of the project you're working on.
Sometimes.
Yeah. But other times, they have these, there's a good book that I pretty much make all my clients read. It's called Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield. Really good book. He talks about resistance, and that's what you were just referring to when you wake up tomorrow, knowing that you don't want to go to do this project, to do these meetings because they're going to be tedious, they're going to be a pain in the ass, right?
Right.
He talks about resistance, and it's a very formidable foe, and he equates it to a dragon, right? And you're like the dragon slayer every day with this resistance, and when you beat the dragon, you just build your confidence up more and more to understand that you can beat him. The fight never gets easier. So, rolling out of bed at 4:30, going to do a quick little workout before the classes that I teach is not easier in the morning. It's just easier to wrap my head around things. The actual physical act of it is not easier. I think that's something that's important so people understand that it's never really going to get easy. It just becomes part of what you're doing, and something that the pill goes down a little bit easier because you're used to swallowing it, but it's still the same size pill.
Yeah. In my world, boxing was a great teacher for this because, one, if you're in the boxing ring with another human being, having low effort, low energy, not doing your best is not a good idea. It's dangerous. So, and
that's the same way of weightlifting.
Yeah, same thing with weightlifting.
Yeah.
If you're not there, you have to be aware of that. And if you have a good coach, they're going to say, hey, I see that in you, and I'm going to work with that. I'm not going to put you in the ring with somebody today. We're going to jump rope. We're going to do something else. We're going to do strength. Now, as you have a good coach, some days they're going to push you through that and say, hey, I don't want to hear that. That's too bad. That's your mind. You're going to go and do this now, right? So you need somebody who can guide you in that respect.
So that goes back to the second E of education and having a good coach and finding the right person to help you out along the way, because more than likely you're not going to be able to do it on your own.
Well, you can. Most people, including myself, don't have the kind of the mental strength or the internal fortitude, the mindfulness to say, hey, my effort seems low today because I'm not feeling well, when in fact that may be in your mind, and a good coach will sort through that.
We'll see. That's the sixth E that we're not going to talk about probably, was the experience, right?
Yeah, for sure. For me, I need somebody to bounce those ideas off, because left to my own devices, I might lower my effort level because it's convenient, not because I'm a quitter or weak, but it's convenient, right? That's why CrossFit. Look at CrossFit. You go to do a WOD on your own. 80% of the people are not going to do as well as if they were in a class, right? Because that group environment keeps you motivated, keeps you going. So, that's a reality in my mind. Now, a professional is able to sort through that, right?
Right.
The better you are, the more experience you said you have, you're able to sort through that and maybe put that effort in without that nudge, without that coach. Yep.
I mean, that comes with experience, I think. But I think there's some point that everybody needs to understand within what they're doing, that it has to come from inside too. There's got to be some kind of intrinsic motivation as well, right? I think in my experience, I've had people who they want all the effort to be pretty much on you. Like, they show up with the same bullshit attitude, and it's, okay, you need to be someone understanding. You walked through the door, you made that decision, so own it,
Well, I think we're all human beings.
Sure.
And we have good days and bad days. You need more good days and bad days. You need to put the effort in over time, right? Consistency over time is critical in my mind. And if you do your best, forgive the low days, celebrate the maximum effort intense days, and keep going, right?
So why don't you talk about, we had a brief chat, we talked about the 15-minute dissertation. Did I explain that to you, or did you?
No. What is it?
I thought you had the same idea, pretty much. Well, it's pretty. There's a sports psychologist up in Montclair. Actually, he's got a call you can call into and listen to every day. And he talks about the 15-minute dissertation. And pretty much, you have a doctoral candidate who has this 600-page paper to write, and it's overwhelming, right? So, but every day that candidate said, I'm going to spend 15 minutes working on this dissertation. And some days it's 15 minutes and out, but because they set that goal for themselves to at least achieve that every day, they did what you did. What you're talking about is that constant progress daily. But most days when they start that ball rolling, they kind of get into a groove and it ends up being 45 minutes, an hour. So they end up spending more time in that than they would because they're looking at those small victories and achieving those and being happy with those. So then you essentially write this huge dissertation in 15 minutes a day because that's all you've committed to it. But because of that momentum thing, that getting the ball started, it's easier to get more time and effort into it.
I think I read somewhere, I might be wrong about this, but I think Hemingway had a rule that he would write a certain number of words every morning.
I hear a lot of authors talk about that.
Yeah, first thing, and would force himself, it was either words or time, to do that. That's what I'm talking about when you're not feeling like
it.
Right. I think it would be unrealistic and kind of silly if we sat here and said, you got to put in maximum effort every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not realistic. And again, the better you are at something, if you're a professional CrossFitter, right, you're going to put in maximum effort more times than you or me or somebody else, right? Because that's their job. They're good at it.
But there's plenty of professionals out there who just rely on their skills and their innate abilities in certain things as well, and they kind of float by. There has to be, there's plenty of people who's the quarterback for the Browns?
Johnny Manziel, that's going through trouble.
Yeah. I mean, he's skated his career, from what I've read, for a long time now, and he's got a lot of innate ability, and the work that he could have put in to make himself a great quarterback wasn't done. Therefore, he's feeling that at that higher level, which is something that sucks because you have that ability, that natural ability. That's whatever you'd call that. I don't really believe in talent, but I think we all have some sort of natural abilities and pick up things quicker than others.
Yeah, well, in his case, I think girls and booze probably trumped effort.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I need to. It's 9:00. I need to sign off, my friend.
All right.
I have to go to this meeting.
Good talk. And, so we talked about effort. We talked about just starting, getting a little bit done each day, right? Is that cut and dry? Is the simple as we can make it? I think so.
Well, I would sum it up this way: you got to show up when you don't want to show up. Number one. Number two, when you're ready to stop, realize you're at 40% of your effort. There's a lot more you got to do. And number three, be mindful of the fact that 80% of your results are coming from 20% of your effort. So identify those efforts.
I like it. So I'm going to add something to the just show up, though. I'm going to say just show up and own it. Make sense?
Yes.
You walk through the door. It was your choice.
Absolutely.
Own it. All right, well, good talk. I hope it helps people out. Helps me out. I'm going to go to the gym now and work out again.
Good. Put in some effort. What level of effort are you going to put in at the gym?
Right now I'm really sore, so we're going to see how it feels as I start it up. But, that usually makes it better, to be honest, when you're sore and really hurting bad. And once you start moving, it makes it a little better to get the intensity around up.
10 being the maximum effort, 1 being the lowest. What are you going in there to put in?
I'm going in there for 7s and 8s.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I want to at least be above when the way I look at that as like grading in school. I want at least a B,
That's a good. See, to me, that's a good mindset to say that's not good enough. You need to put in a 10. in my mind, is not realistic. I think that's not a realistic approach to things. So I like what you're doing.
All right. And then you're going to go in and kill it in the office today?
Probably not. I feel tired. No. Yeah, I am. I represent people for a living, so I actually have to do my very, very best. I have a fiduciary duty to those people, and I'm going to have a coffee and try to fulfill that.
So I think people have a fiduciary duty to themselves. What do you think?
I think that's a great statement.
No. So it's your fiduciary duty to put some effort in today and own it. So
that's very good. I like that a lot.
No. Yeah, we'll have to use that at some point in the future for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good talk. Have a good day, man. Signing off here. I'm Rob Esposito. This is David Cassidy, the one and only. What's your boxing name, David? What is it again?
What's that?
Your boxing name. What is it again?
Oh, I don't have one anymore.
You have one. What was it?
Nah.
Come on.
Night.
That's it. David Night Cassidy. Sign off. All right. Bye.
I'll see you. Have a good one.
No, bye.
Bye.